Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very inspiring show coming right up with special guest, Allana Pratt. And she's here today to share with us her new book, From Heartbreak to HeartMates, Discovering Lockdown Love. Now, is isolation and the lack of touch and hopelessness becoming unbearable for you? Well, you're not alone. We're all navigating an intense mental health crisis where many report feeling nervous to date during a pandemic. Yet more people are feeling disconnected, lonely, and desperate than ever for true love. So many of you will remember Allana Pratt is an intimacy expert and is the go-to authority for those who have suffered heartbreak and are ready to live unapologetically and attract an open-hearted, ideal relationship. This Ivy League grad is the author of 6 books and hosts an edgy podcast called Intimate Conversations. She has been chosen as an icon of influence and is a columnist for the Good Men Project. She's also been featured in Huffington Post, People Magazine, Forbes, and also on CBS, ABC, TLC, and Fox. So let's welcome to the show, Allana Pratt.
Oh, it is so great to be back. I so adore you. You ask the best questions and dive deep so quickly. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. It's such an honor to have you here. You're such a great resource, especially when we talk about relationships. And when I heard about this, I was like, oh, we've got to talk.
Perfect. Yes. There's a lot of heartbreak going on with the pandemic, and there's so much more stress than usual. I know it's kind of, I know that life is uncertain, but there's something about the pandemic that really reminds us that life is uncertain, and it triggers us into wanting control. And then when you put those aspects into a relationship and you try to control another person, nobody likes that, right? And there's a lot more breakups. So it's inviting us to do some of the inner work and find that safety from within, that self-approval from within, so we can be open-hearted and really attract an ideal heartmate.
Well, isn't that ideal? I know a lot of people are going, okay, I want to, we're isolated, I want to meet people, and it's interesting. We have to actually break it down in some ways because there's so many differences, from what men and women want in a relationship. And what do you see?
It's interesting. So first on the COVID level, and then just on the masculine feminine level, some people that are my clients refuse to even meet somebody in person unless they've had a vaccination. Oh, and other people don't really have much of an issue around it. They don't require the masks. They just trust their intuition and are more at ease. So I think right out of the gate, just to be in allowance of wherever anybody is. Nobody's right. Nobody's wrong. Nobody's doing it like the good way or the wrong way. It's just honor other people's truth. So that would be number one. That's not masculine or feminine. That's just honoring people's belief systems and what makes them feel safe inside of their bodies. And then second, regarding the dating between men and women or different sexual orientations or gender identifications, some people really need safety first. Other people really need visuals first. Other people really need them to go out of their way and make them feel special and do some sort of act of service. Other ones are really into the words and they want those sexy texts to wake up to every morning. So everybody, we could call it a love language. We could call it just the way that we were raised, what kind of style makes us feel seen and safe and honored. So as you get to know somebody when you're dating, ask these questions. It can be as simple as, tell me a way you like to be loved. And it'll tell you a lot about your alignment or misalignment with that person. And then if you really are interested in them, but they're not exactly wired like you are, like maybe you're all about touch, but they're all about affirmations. When you come from emptiness, it's always about take. What are you going to give me? What am I going to get out of this relationship? But when you take the time, I call it to become the one, to find the one. And that's another way of going from heartbreak to heartmates. You come into wholeness or fullness from the inside out, then you can give from the overflow. Even if you might not be into gifts that much, you really care for this person. So you have that extra energy, that extra inspiration, that extra love to give to that person so that they feel safe and seen and understood the way that really matters to them.
How empowering is that? And, I have to ask you, why was it important to have this book out now?
Mm. Well, my clients were going, they were having a difficult time dating in the first place, feeling lonely or feeling like, am I going to die alone? What really wakes them up at 3 a.m. is very different than when they put on that fake happy face. No, I got this, all day long with a good attitude, but really late at night when they get scared, they really are afraid to die alone. And then you add a pandemic where, when will I be able to see a person, touch a person? Will I get COVID? Will we all die? Like all of these fears get even exacerbated. So I'm like, okay, we have to write this book right now to help people discover lockdown love, that there's actually 2 points of view. One is that this is the worst time ever to date. And I choose to take the point of view that this is the best time ever to date because we're invited to slow down, face and feel that which we may have been avoiding in our 2 or 3 or 4 past relationships or past marriages. Like the only one in common is us. And so the gift of slowing down is to go, oh, I do have an issue around my sexuality. Oh, you know what? Money triggers me all the time. Oh, when his eyes wander, I lose my crap. Or when she expects me to pay, I feel taken advantage of. Like, what is that trigger? And instead of just bowling into this next, dating relationship, use the downtime to heal these wounds, to see how the very worst can bring out the very best in you and how these challenges are really meant to evolve you into your best self and then begin to date again, which is actually not only why I wrote the book, but why I have my new partnering app called HeartMates, because my clients kept complaining, Allana, I meet somebody and after maybe like 3 weeks to a month, that very first tough conversation, and they ghost me, they ditch me. And I'm devastated. Where are the people that do the work, who are learning how to sit in the fire and have a conversation that might be uncomfortable, but no longer pull away and run from conflict, that actually understand that when you do sit in the fire with an open heart and you don't hit below the belt, you really choose to hear and understand, not be right and dominate the conversation. When you just open and you seek understanding, conflict can actually bring us closer. Where, Allana, are those people? And I didn't have an answer, Marianne. So I created it. I created a dating app and an intimacy training and live conscious connection calls where we practice. I created what we're calling a partnering app, where we learn to become the one, to find the one, which keeps the one.
Oh my goodness. I just love that. And it's so true, because how often do people, they're looking for someone who's really interested in their spiritual growth or just personal growth. And, you during this time, we're able to really discover who those people are and who they're not.
Yeah, exactly. And so what's initially a bit of a barrier when people want to join HeartMates, they're like, what? It's a year program? And I said, yeah, I'm protecting you and others from trolls who just want to come in and use you for a hookup and take all your energy and throw you out to the garbage. This is a place where everybody is here to learn. Even once you meet somebody, that last time I remember, when you get a new plant, you have to keep watering it. You have to keep giving it sunlight. It's not one and done. So everyone in the app, even if they do meet each other, they can put their profile on, like hide their profile, but I encourage them, do the intimacy training, keep doing the meditations, keep going to the Conscious Connection Fridays, keep learning how to be authentic, be a deep listener, sit in the fire and truly drink in your partner without fixing, changing, interrupting, all of that. These are still skills we require in order to keep the one. Because a lot of my practice also, we're talking about singles right now, from heartbreak to HeartMates, but also a lot of my clients are couples on the brink of divorce. And they've never learned. Like I had a session yesterday, Marianne, with a couple. They've been together 28 years. And I was watching them do what I call a dyad. And this is what we do on the Conscious Connection calls on Fridays within HeartMates. We ask each other deep questions, but here's the trick. When someone speaks to you, you don't get to have a rebuttal, an interruption. You don't get to share your story about that thing. All you get to do is say, thank you. And it doesn't even mean I agree. It just means I heard you and I understand. Something inside really rests when you know that person is just listening to understand. And so here I am working with this 28-year marriage couple. And as soon as she finished talking, he was like, thank you. And he just wanted her to shut up. And so I go, okay, pause, time out. I said, what if you literally drank in her communication, not just to your head, but down into your heart, down into your belly, down into the roots of you like a tree, into the center of the earth. And then you said back to her after a beat, almost like putting energy out to be around the small of her back, like you got her. He took a beat and he said, thank you. And she melted. She started crying. And she said, in 28 years, you've never heard me. And he realized he didn't hear her. Just his brain heard her, but his heart didn't. His being didn't, because he was so afraid of doing it wrong and wanting to fix it. He couldn't just get her. And all she wanted to be was gotten. So these communication skills that I'm teaching within HeartMates and within the book From Heartbreak to HeartMates, this is so what a lot of us are craving, what we hunger for. Just get me. Just get me.
Is that what you call blind spot in your book? Because I know you cover that, and I'd love for you to share what that is.
Yes, I have them too, Marianne. I can't see mine to save my life. That's why I have my own coaches, as well as being a coach and training coaches for my clients. But a blind spot, an example of a blind spot is when a woman might say, there's no good men out there. They just treat me like a piece of meat. All they want is sex. So that's really what the mind is saying. But the blind spot is, and I ask a very curious question. I go, what do you love about men treating you like a piece of meat? What do you love about believing that there's no good men out there? She's like, nothing. I want to find my soulmate, my heartmate. And I said, let's look a little deeper. What's the payoff of believing that? Well, then she doesn't have to risk. She doesn't have to show up. She doesn't have to forgive the past relationships. She doesn't have to be brave and open her heart and be willing to show up, which is also being willing to risk being hurt again. She doesn't have to risk any of that if she just keeps blaming the guy. And the very same can be said of a man, perhaps, that comes into coaching and says, my wife, never has sex with me and she doesn't appreciate that I pay for blah. And I said, what do you love about that point of view? Nothing. I want her to appreciate me and have sex with me. I'm like, what if the payoff, the blind spot, is that you don't have to risk being rejected if you just keep blaming her? So these blind spots, when they're revealed, they feel almost like a Mack truck hitting you. You're like, whoa, there's some deeper wounds here at work. And that's why this app and this book is about the HeartMates. From Heartbreak to HeartMates. We're all clever enough to figure things out in our mind. But if the pattern continues and the sabotaging pattern continues, I invite people to consider that actually it's a wound of the heart, a blind spot that's actually running the show, that's attempting to keep you safe in the short term, but it's creating your demise or suffering in the long term.
That is so brilliant how you put that together, because a lot of people don't even think about it that way. They look at it and it's like, oh, they're just blaming people instead of looking at the deeper cause of why that's happening. It's like almost they're trying to protect themselves.
It totally is a protection mechanism. And I don't like to be hurt. It's not like, hey, how could I get hurt today? It's not like any of us go out there looking for pain. And so, of course, once you've really been betrayed or used or cheated on or catfished or humiliated, who wants to open their heart again and risk rejection, risk getting hurt again? Nobody. And yet blaming others pushes others away. Blaming ourselves pushes our own truth and wisdom and intuition away. And so really, this is a path, my work, my book, my partnering app, HeartMates, is for the brave and also the ones that are willing to take 100% responsibility and be a little humble and maybe even a little humorous. Like, okay, the only one in common, and with like, this is me speaking, Marianne. Like, I had 2 divorces. Like, the only one in common is me. Okay, let's have a look. Let's have a look here of what was I doing. And so, even though initially it almost feels like pulling off a Band-Aid, it kind of stings right away to go, oh my God, I actually have some work to do. Very soon, that humility turns into self-compassion, like empathy, self-care, and then self-value and this sense of confidence from the inside out, and a sense of worth, no longer connected to your accomplishments and your achievements and look how good I am and I keep up with the Joneses and blah blah. You let go of that and you really drop into a worth that's on the inside, that's quite quiet and beautiful and sacred, that no one and no thing can ever take away, which is also very sexy when you begin dating, because you don't need to control another and look good and shine someone on. You can just be you. And your authentic partner wants you to just be you and wants you to be free for them to just be them. All of this result comes from doing the inner work. And so if people are listening to this going, oh, but it's so much more fun to blame everyone else. I agree. It can be fun. but it also, that's the 3 a.m. moment when you're alone and you're the only one in common and you haven't done the work, or you're even laying beside somebody feeling alone because you haven't done the inner work. And so relationships are work. Real relationships require real work. And yet communication is the relationship. Communication with self, communication with your partner, communication with your sweet body and intuition, communication with the divine, God, the universe. It's all a conversation. So begin to get guidance, support, mentorship, help so that you can heal those kind of conversations you have with yourself and others, and watch how your life gets really quite juicy and magnificent when you do. I just love all the success stories in my book, From Heartbreak to HeartMates, and how the work works, and my own story as well. I'm 51 and I am deeply in love with an amazing man. I never gave up after my 2 divorces. So please, no, anybody listening, don't give up on yourself or love either.
How encouraging is that, especially since most of us are just on this subconscious track. And it does take working, with somebody as gifted as you to kind of see those things and make shifts.
Yeah. And I hope that I am very good at what I do, very masterful at what I do, but I'm also a hot mess from time to time. I am not perfect. And my community, it's really safe to be real. It's really safe to be vulnerable. Like just a couple weeks prior, if people go on my newsletter list, which is my website, allanapratt.com, I send out weekly newsletters, videos, audios, I change it up and inspire people. And the other day, it was a tearful video. I got back from Mexico and my home had been broken into and my big computer had been stolen and I felt so violated. And then my investor for HeartMates turned out to be a fraud. And I had a fight with my boyfriend. I was like, okay, I'm having a meltdown. And instead of not sharing that and pretending to be the perfect guru, I shared that I'm scared and I feel hurt and I feel violated and I feel betrayed and I feel stupid. I feel like a loser. And I shared all of that. And then I shared, and I love and accept myself. And I forgive myself. And little you inside my heart, I will keep her safe and sound and forgive her no matter what. So I share my real feelings and the path back home into oneness within, so that everyone in my dating app, my clients, I have group coaching, private coaching, I have the dating app, all sorts of different ways people work together. And on these conscious connection calls where people come together, it's safe. It's safe for everyone to feel and be real. And in fact, be celebrated for their bravery, celebrated that their vulnerability is actually their strength, not their weakness. Who wants a fake relationship where you have to be perfect, which isn't even real in the first place? We all desire that when we're feeling wobbly, someone has our back. So first we do that for ourselves. And that's what I teach. And that's the talk I walk, the walk I talk, whatever. And that's what we learn. And that's what we can bring to a relationship. And oh my goodness, how good it feels to be not quite having it all together, and to have somebody not judge you, love you unconditionally, and simply say, I got you. Tell me more. It feels so good.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sorry about the computer and all that. It just sounds like, and everyone has those really bad days. But I love how you talk about vulnerability as our new superpower. And that just makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I used to think my superpower was my brain. I'm a cum laude graduate of Columbia University. I'm a smart chick. And I thought, my superpower is my intelligence. But when I would only rely on my brain and my heart was closed and I couldn't hear my intuition to save my life, I was scrambling to look good, do it right, and be in control. And yet now that I've learned, my true superpower is when my heart is all the way open. Now that's intense. It is intense. I will be honest, because you feel everything. You feel other people's emotions. You feel your own emotions. You feel the devastation of the environment. You feel the pain of human trafficking. You feel that your child just got a D or they didn't make the baseball team. Like, you feel everything. And yet simultaneously, you also hear your instincts and your intuition. And science says, I've had the pleasure of leading a meditation for HeartMath at their annual conference in Mexico a couple years ago. And this science tells us when our heart is in coherence, i.e., our heart is vulnerably open, i.e., our heart is open in compassion, appreciation, even for the tough stuff, care and kindness. When we be this way, we literally vibrate at a level of coherence where we can not only hear our own intuition and instincts, we can hear the non-local field. We can hear God. We can hear the universe. We can hear those subtle whispers. So when we're vulnerable and when our heart is open, although it is true, it's intense, you are your most powerful, most connected, and most supported that you could ever be. And it takes practice. It definitely takes practice. But I remind people that orgasms are intense and nobody has a problem with that. So let's keep intense isn't bad, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I know you talked earlier about sitting in the fire, and I'd love for you to share with our listeners what that means, because I think this dovetails very nicely with what you just said.
Yes, Marianne, you're right. I adore you. So yes, sitting in the fire is when there is a discomfort of fire going on in your body, an intensity of anger or fear or shame or out of control or overwhelm or humiliation, like any of these feelings that we deem as bad and negative. They aren't bad and negative. They're simply intense. They're intense. And most of the time we're told to, good girls, don't cry, or boys don't cry, or be seen, not heard. We aren't taught growing up, because our parents weren't taught how to sit in the fire and just breathe through an uncomfortable, intense emotion moving through the body. Instead, we normally shove it down, go into our head, put on a happy face. I call that sprinkles on top of the ice cream cone of crap, or spiritual bypass. And we push these away. But here's the deal. That energy grows over time, because what you resist persists. And that energy grows and grows and grows until you just freak out over the tiniest thing, because there's this huge energy trigger, trauma stuck in your body, maybe from decades ago, that can't be gotten rid of. That's the illusion. We can't get rid of fear. We can't get rid of the anger or sadness, but we can transform it. Like an alchemist, we can turn lead into gold. So I've been trained in very, very high level, as have the coaches that I've trained in my company, very high level quantum psychology, spiritual technology processes, where we've learned brain science. We've learned how to interact with the quantum field to literally integrate, process, heal these. They are low vibrations, but they're not bad, of lower vibrations of shame and sadness and humiliation and fear, into a higher vibrational allowance, soon to be confidence, and then all the way up to joy. But we start with just being in allowance of what is. And then we start to get the lesson. That happened to teach me how to speak up. That happened to teach me how to forgive. that happened to teach me how to let go. I really believe, I don't think it really goes down like this, Marianne, but like I imagine I'm sitting around in heaven with God and the goddess, scotch and cigars. We're sitting around. And, and I'm like, hey, I'd be really super cool to learn about forgiveness in this life. And they're like, fist pump, down you go, girlfriend. Have a great time. So I go down and I have a life. And how am I going to learn forgiveness? Through being friggin' betrayed, right? You don't just like wake up one day and know what forgiveness is. You earn it. You earn it by being deeply betrayed, abused, or taken advantage of. That's the path to forgiveness. Or if you say, hey, I want to be super strong, you're going to have an experience of being very weak and taken advantage of. That's how you learn to be strong. And so when you really get these lower vibrational energies aren't bad or wrong, you're not bad or wrong. They're just an experience meant to be integrated so you can learn and embody a higher vibrational capacity. Once you get that, you stop being so afraid of life. You start to feel a little unstoppable. You start to feel a little sassy, a little sexy. You start to really enjoy dancing with the mystery. And that is, I believe, the way. I don't give people a fish. I teach them to fish, but I teach them this is how you navigate your own life. This is how you navigate relationships. And this is how you become the one to find the one and keep the one.
Well, I can definitely say that you see things that most people don't. That's why you're so successful at what you do. I mean, because you bring up tidbits that most people look at and go, oh, yeah, okay, I didn't know that I have this subconscious thing going on, or I've got this anger going on, or whatever, you kind of bring it down home so that they can really understand what's happening and work on it.
Yeah. 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 I honestly don't want to be here, Marianne, if life is not for me. Like I choose to believe that everything is for me and not against me, that even the challenges are for me. And when I have that point of view, that your point of view creates your reality, you'll find the gift. You'll find the message. You'll find the invitation to do the work. And then surround yourself with people that also have that same point of view and don't gossip and blame or criticize or reject. Hang out with people that are on the path as well, which is another reason why I created HeartMates, is so that there's other people who have the same point of view. Because sometimes it's very lonely to try to have a positive attitude and grow. People say, oh, you're Pollyanna, or what have you, because it triggers them. They don't want to have to forgive. They don't want to have to do the work. They don't want to have to take responsibility. So they pull you back down again. So it's important not only to do the work, but be around others who do the work, because the tide rises together and you make new friends, you make new allies. And then one day in one of those conscious connection calls on Fridays, and you're having this deep dyad and you're sharing authentically and you're being heard deeply without being interrupted, and your walls come down. And this is why another reason I started this HeartMates app. This happened to Stephen and Mary Beth in one of my retreats. They'd both been coaching with me. They'd both been on private calls and group calls. And here we were at a retreat doing the very same dyads that we do on the Friday Conscious Connection calls. And they put their walls down and they opened their heart and they shared authentically and they saw each other's soul. And they've been together for 2.5 years. They're soulmates. They're happy as they're gorgeous. And they even started with a long distance relationship. And these dyads helped them to stay connected and go deep. And now they're Airbnb-ing their houses. They're buying a boat. They're traveling the world. They're gorgeous. And so I know that the work works to heal hearts, but also to attract your ideal partner who sees the real you, because you're brave enough to reveal the real you.
In your experience, what is some of the things that really hold people back from really obtaining their true self?
They don't know how to love their hot mess, wobbly part. They've been so rejected for being scared in the past, or so rejected for being loud or angry in the past. They've been so rejected for their sexual truth in the past that they decided to reject themselves as well. And so I have these incredible guided meditations and processes in my curriculum. And one of them is called the Little You Process. And I take people through and I add in all the quantum psychology elements for lasting integration and healing. But basically, you go into the back corner of the darkest chamber of your heart and you find the little you that you've criticized, rejected, abandoned, blamed, and you apologize. And you say, I thought by pushing you away and putting on a happy face and working harder, we would have the life and love that we deserve. I had no idea that I was making it worse and creating more disassociation, more separation by treating you this way. Please forgive me. How can I make up for the damage done? And it's really about bringing these disassociated parts of ourselves home, not to fix and look good and be perfect so we can get love. No, it's as if saying to this wounded part of yourself, I love you as you are forever, even if you never change. That's unconditional love. Conditional love is chop, chop, put on a happy face. Let's do this, right? That's conditional. You need to change in order for me to love you. Unconditional is you can be a hot mess for eternity, and I will never, ever leave you. Something inside rests when you really, really mean it and do the work. And then through grace, literally magic, this part of you doesn't want to stay sad, doesn't want to stay mad, doesn't want to stay scared, but it refuses to grow and evolve if our big self continues to judge it. What person wants to change when someone's saying you're wrong and bad? Like you just want to give them the finger. You don't want to change, right? But if somebody has compassion and apologizes and gives you spaciousness, that's an honoring of you. That's a respect of where you are. And that's an inspiration to do the work. No different than within ourselves. So that is imperative for us all to do for ourselves so that we can show up whole into this heartmate relationship. And this is exactly what I walk. Even with this new man that I'm dating, I've clearly done 2 decades worth of work. I am still getting triggered, Marianne. There's still little blind spots that are coming up that can only happen when you're on the court, right? So this is why we have this year-long training, because yes, do your inner work, but also once you start to date, once you start to meet people on the conscious connection calls, you're going to get triggered. That's perfect. Good. Let's continue to do the work because we never get there. The more we grow, the more we risk, the more we show up, there's always going to be something new. So let go of ever getting there and be present and care for yourself and open your heart bravely and care for another and just be and see what happens. I think it's just delicious.
Well, and it seems that, your book really teaches people how to awaken to their self-worth. A lot of times people have a real problem with that.
And I'm no different, Marianne. Because I'm strong and I'm a badass and I've gone through so much, I tend to not ask for help, not ask to be supported, not ask. I feel like, oh, maybe they'll think I'm weak. I should, all these judgments, should. And so what I've personally realized is that there's a part of me that didn't feel valuable enough to ask to be protected, ask to be provided. Like when I talked about that break-in, I was in Mexico and my boyfriend stayed a couple extra days with some friends. And I was like, I got this. I can go home. I didn't say, you know what? Can I either stay with you a couple extra days and you come home with me? Or are you even open to changing your plans? Or maybe I'll just stay in a hotel in LA a couple days before I go out to the house and wait for you to finish up your trip in Mexico so you can come with me. I'd really like you just to be with me. I'm a little scared. I didn't have the self-worth or the self-value to ask for that. I just, pushed that down and said, I got this and I'm a badass. And so I went home and there was, the doors were broken. The glass was broken. All of the stuff in drawers were thrown everywhere. There were fingerprint stuff from the deputies. It felt awful. And I realized that I too still am on the path of having the courage to ask for being protected. Even though I'm a grown woman, my truth was, please help me. And I didn't ask. And then, of course, I blamed him. It was all his fault for a good, good 30 minutes of the conversation. And then I was like, wait a minute. I never asked. He never offered. It's true. But I never asked. And I can in the future ask and value myself enough to be taken care of when I'm scared.
How empowering is that? Oh my goodness, Allana. I mean, we can talk all day. I just love your book and the work that you do. Where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about your work?
Oh, you're so beautiful. Thank you. So my website is my name, allanapratt.com. That's with two L's, ALLANAPRATT.com. All my books are there. They're also on Amazon. And then heartmates.app is where this wonderful partnering app is, where you learn to become the one with the online curriculum, to find the one on the dating app, where everybody on the dating app is in the curriculum, so that you can keep the one, which is those Friday conscious connection calls where we practice communicating. I have HeartMates for singles and HeartMates for couples, because my business model is not like other dating apps, which are designed to keep you single. My dating app takes you from HeartMates for singles into HeartMates for couples, so that you can keep the one and thrive long term in a soul shaking, intimate relationship.
Well, I know I'm going to hop over there and check that stuff out. Allana, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. And thank you for holding such beautiful space for me to go deep. In communication, we can only speak to the depth of the listener. So thank you for being so amazing and welcoming me back today. I'm so grateful.
Well, thank you, Allana. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, From Heartbreak to HeartMates. Again, if you'd like to connect with Allana, you can at allanapratt.com for more information. There you'll find all of Allana's books and links to check out. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.